Well, look, today is the 3rd of September. It was on this day 80 years ago that Prime Minister Robert Menzies made this fateful announcement.
Fellow Australians, it is my melancholy duty to inform you officially that in consequence of a persistence by Germany in her invasion of Poland, Great Britain has declared war upon her, and that as a result, Australia is also at war.
Well, there we are. Between 1939 and 1945, and from a population of just 7 million, more than 1 million Australian men and women enlisted. Millions more helped on the home front in a voluntary capacity. More than 40,000 Australians lost their lives during the Second World War. Many more were physically injured or mentally scarred, often for life. And of the more than 1 million people who served during the Second World War, only 35,000 or so of them are still with us today. One of them is Rear Admiral Guy Griffiths. Mr. Griffiths is 96. In 1937, I'm smiling because I'm telling you what, he's the best-looking 96-year-old I've ever seen. In 1937, he joined the Royal Australian Naval College to the south of Melbourne as a cadet midshipman. He was 13 at the time. After graduating from the college in late 1940, he was posted to the Royal Navy, British, for further training, and in March 1941, he joined the battlecruiser HMS Repulse. On the 10th of December 1941, the Repulse and HMS Prince of Wales were attacked and sunk by the Japanese off the east coast of Malaysia. Around 1,200 men were killed. From the Prince of Wales, with a crew of 1,612, 321 lives were lost. From the Repulse, with a crew of 1,309, 513 lives were lost. Approximately 800 survived. Rear Admiral Guy Griffiths was one of them. And here he is in the studio. I repeat, Peter will want to say it for me. She's been eyeing him off. Have a look at it. The best-kept 96-year-old. What tablets are you on?
Oh, what moisturiser?
What moisturiser? Am I embarrassing you? Now, and a boy from Pyrmont. From Pecolbin. What, Pecolbin. Your father was a winemaker. Now, how did you graduate from your father being a winemaker to enlisting?
Well, it was a bit difficult. I had to sit the necessary examinations and so on and interviews. The interview was a bit terrifying. And nearly 500, actually 480, I think, applied that year. And they chose 17. And I use the expression amongst friends and here, that was my first lotto win.
Yes.
I haven't had one since like that.
500 applied, 17 were chosen, but hang on, I mean, 13 years of age?
Yeah.
What?
Well...
What did your father say?
Well, I didn't hear all his comments. He's probably quite relieved.
What did the initial training involve?
The college really was a Navy high school, and we had a 4-year curriculum and graduation, etc., at the end of 1940, but normal subjects, but they insisted we learned French because, of course, all naval officers were going to Paris for a weekend if they ever got to England.
Excuse me, that's the good-looking man here. Have a look at him. Here he is. You'll see him on your screens.
And
there we go. We've got all the pictures.
You got all the pictures?
All the pictures.
Oh, there. I see over there.
That's you, looking very, very smart. But you made up your mind after a visit to the destroyer Vampire on Western Port Bay that you wanted to... You had this choice to stay as an engineer or seek a spot in the executive branch.
Correct.
What did you choose?
I chose the executive branch.
Why?
Well, we went down a Vampire elderly destroyer. It was a sort of training tender to the naval training establishment there, HMAS Cerberus. And we visited, a group of us, on one of those good Bass Strait days, low cloud, so good southwesterly wind and showers. So it wasn't exactly a spring day as we're having here. And after touring around the ship and going through boiler room and engine room. I was waiting on the quarterdeck for the rest of my chums to come along. And I meditated slightly and decided that I didn't really want to be down in the boiler room and engine room. I'd much prefer to be up on the bridge, driving.
Do you remember 1939 and the declaration of war?
Not particularly, but I'm sure it impacted on us at the time, because the term ahead of us in the college, they went off 3 months earlier. Instead of graduating in December, they went off in September.
But how did an Australian, you mentioned the Repulse, a British ship, how did an Australian finish up on Repulse?
We were a group of 5 of us, in alphabetical order, the first 5. We were posted to HMS Australia, the 8-inch cruiser, which at the time we were posted, probably in December, was in England, operating out of UK, around the North Atlantic, on convoy duty and so on. But by the time we got to England in, I think, early February, by a merchant ship from New Zealand, Australia at that time, we learned when we got to Australia House, that Australia was somewhere between Cape Town and Fremantle on our way home.
Yes.
So as I said before, you know, we didn't have a Qantas 747 available to fly us to Fremantle. So we waited in England until Admiralty gave us 5 hammock spaces in Repulse.
So you eventually then sailed to Ceylon, and then, as it was known then, and then on to Singapore. How did you come to be where you were on the day of the attack?
Admiral, we were in a force together with the Prince of Wales, the new battleship Prince of Wales, and 4 destroyers, and we were formed as Force Z, and we were sent out to Singapore to be the deterrent, to discourage Japan from any aggression in Southeast Asia. And, well, that wasn't a success, but we sortied from the naval base on the 9th of December in the afternoon, and then moved around and went up the east coast of Malaya in an endeavour to disrupt a Japanese landing, which had already started on the 8th of December. Big landing up at a place called Singora. And so we went up on the 9th. The Japanese submarine spotted us, so the surprise element had gone. We turned in towards the landing space at the end of the day, at the 9th of December. But the Admiral decided, as we'd lost surprise, we ought to go home to Singapore. So we turned around and went back towards Singapore. We did divert a little bit to go into a place called Quanton, because there'd been a reported landing at that space, but at that port. But in fact, on investigation in the morning of the 10th, one destroyer captain described the situation in the harbour as all as quiet as a wet Sunday afternoon, meaning nothing going on. So we then turned around and went off and then started to continue our...
But then when did you know that these Japanese bombers started attacking your ship, the Repulse, and dropping bombs? I mean, that's what I read, but what were you thinking? What was happening to you?
Well, I was at an action station in what was known as there were 2 of them, one forward and one aft, down below decks, in a control position for the 4-inch anti-aircraft guns. And the first thing one knew, they sighted a line of bombers coming in, and so we engaged those.
You could see them coming in on a radar?
I couldn't.
No?
No. I was down below looking at a plot, endeavouring to forecast where shells ought to go. And the next thing, of course, we knew that they kept on and they attacked Repulse. The bombs landed around the ship except one, which did penetrate the upper deck and went down, burst on the armour deck down below.
But then they came at you with these torpedo bombers, both ships.
Well, what apparently nobody knew, but the Japanese had gained airfields around the Saigon area, and they had 34 ordinary twin-engine bombers, all with a 1,000-mile, in those days, 1,000-mile range, and 54 twin-engine torpedo bombers. It's quite a lot of aircraft. And all those aircraft were in the sky on the 10th of December.
God.
We didn't know that. I don't think anybody knew it.
And
until...
your ship was attacked 5 times?
First time with bombs.
Yes.
One hit didn't affect the operation of the ship.
Right.
And then after that, it was torpedo attacks, basically.
And then, could you tell immediately that the ship was damaged? You said, I read where you said it took 8 minutes from the start of the last attack until the ship sank. 8 minutes. And you got out.
And a lot of other people did too, because, of course, all those who were down below in the lower parts of the main turrets, the 15-inch turrets, 3 of them, all those people were up. They were close to getting out if they had to get out, and of course they were able to get out of the ship.
Just on the loss of life, did the loss of life mainly occur from people being trapped in the ship as it sunk in that rapid 8 minutes, or was it after they got out, or injuries sustained when they were in lifeboats and things?
No, the 513 that we lost, basically the majority of those, to within 50, I would think. 50 might have been wounded and died. Basically, the rest would have gone down with the ship.
And you swam away and looked back and you could see Repulse sinking.
When I looked back, all that was left of Repulse was just the forward part of the ship, the bow.
And you didn't know how many lives were lost?
No, not a clue.
And then you arrived back in Singapore and found out?
Well, we knew people were missing, but we didn't know the number. See, we got back just after midnight on the 10th, and the morning of the 11th was busy, sort of trying to clean up and get some new kit. And then in the afternoon, the midshipman, we blessed our captain, he told us he wanted all the midshipmen out of Singapore so that they could continue their training. I think his comment was that we were not going to make much of a contribution to defending
Singapore. So today, on the 80th anniversary of the declaration of Australia joining the Second World War, what sort of thoughts go through your mind?
Do you mean should we or shouldn't we?
Yes, the futility of war.
Oh, the futility of war, I think, has been demonstrated not only by World War II, but anything that's happened since. And that the aggressors never seemed to actually achieve what they wanted. I think the Emperor told the Japanese that the World War II hadn't worked out for them as they'd wanted. It's a masterly understatement, really. But if you look back through the centuries, which war has the aggressor actually achieved what they wanted, and everything is better?
But I guess if you don't defend yourself against the aggressor wins.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's the aggressor that starts it, not the defender.
Agree.
I mean, Australia wasn't going anywhere in aggression in World War II, but we lost a lot of good fellows.
It's wonderful to talk to people such as you. I have to say, I don't think we have any comprehension of what you people endured. We are, without gilding the lily, we are in your debt. We're really grateful that you've shared all that with us, including the pictures that are there. And to see you in such good health and with a wonderful memory. And
I am listening to you speak, sir, and I am hoping someone down the barrel of that camera at the National Archives realises that you are such a treasure and they need to sit down and do an oral history go through all of this stuff,
Quite.
because too often kids are learning about our contribution in the war from a book without a human voice. And this would be wonderful.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm not the only fellow around, of course, who went through all this.
Yes.
But your memory is exceptional.
Wonderful.
Well,
I think it's because you're fiddling with all that stuff.
that's right.
I asked Rear Admiral off screen, what do you do these days? He said, oh, I've got a lot of stuff to do. I'm getting rid of all that stuff at home. It's a wonderful word, stuff. Well, it's doing you good. Anyway, thank you for sharing your time with us.
Well,
and we wish you good health and good luck with the stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
There we are. Isn't that wonderful? You can't do better than that. Rear Admiral Guy Griffiths.